This is an introduction to the Third Testament by Martinus. The texts and explanations to the symbols which are presented here are based on Martinus' cosmic analyses in his book named The Third Testament. Martinus' original and longer explanations of the cosmic symbols can be found in his books named The Eternal World Picture and Leavitt's Bow. The last, which translated means the Book of Life, is Martinus' main works in 7 volumes. Martinus, the author of the Third Testament, lived in Denmark between 1890 and 1981. At Easter in the year 1921, Martinus experienced a cosmic initiation. He describes how a living figure of Christ entered into him and became one with him. From that time it was as if this light issued from himself. The extraordinary thing was that from that moment he had, within himself, the immediate answers to every question he could think of. He experienced his own and all living beings' highest identity as the spirit and body of the Godhead. This unbroken stream of knowledge is the source of the Third Testament. From the very beginning of his mission, Martinus was conscious of the fact that the cosmic analyses were the fulfillment of Christ's prophecy about the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, that should come. But Martinus waited till shortly before his death, when the work was completed, to publish the entire work under its true name, the Third Testament. The following introductions to the cosmic symbols can also be found in this little brochure, A Window onto Eternity, which can be downloaded from the internet or ordered by post. The name of the symbol is Cosmic Unconsciousness. Life is a puzzle for those who do not fully know themselves. Knowledge of the physical world and our own organism is not enough to answer the eternal questions: where from, where to, why. The name of the symbol is intolerance. Ignorance affects not just our experience of life and fate, it also makes it difficult to understand others' ideas and concepts when they diverge too greatly from our own. Intolerance can easily arise between individuals, groups of people, or nations, the 2 star figures on the symbol, with conflict and war to follow, the world in flames on the symbol. To understand one's fellow beings, one must first be able to understand oneself. But this understanding, the solution to the mystery of life, requires an eternal world picture. This symbol is called the living being One. Behind our physical organism is to be found the invisible consciousness, that is to say, our thoughts, feelings and conceptions. The consciousness is regulated by wishes, desire and will. Behind these is to be found life itself, our eternal, infinite I. The eternal living part of us is not material. It is not composed of smaller parts, as is all that is created and transitory. It is indivisible, unlimited, and eternal. The white triangle at the top symbolizes the source of the created, our innermost creator. The eternal ability of the I to make visible its unlimited nature in time and space is symbolized by the violet area in the middle. The lowest part, with the vertical colored fields, symbolizes our temporal tools for experiencing, that is to say, our organism and consciousness, which we develop from life to life. The created is by nature primarily of a spiritual. The physical body is just a temporary tool for the experiencing of life in the material world. We live thus in two worlds, but are at the moment only conscious in one, the physical world. When we sleep, we experience primarily on the spiritual plane. When we are awake, primarily on the physical plane. The upper parts of the symbol indicate in the Third Testament the superconsciousness, and the lower part the subconsciousness, which consists of day and night consciousness. This symbol is called the triune principle. Life is formed as a universal, eternal principle, which is the same everywhere. God and the eternal children of God share the same basic analysis, an eternal, triune principle. When we know ourselves, we experience ourselves as one with the total, eternal and infinite living universe, that is to say, God. The circle from form symbolizes that God and the sons of God are eternally united. The white circle symbolizes this I, our eternal innermost essence and fixed point. It is the originator of all creation and change in the universe. God is to be found in everything and reveals himself through everything. The eternal I is symbolized here with a white circle. We all have the same Father. We, all without exception, live, move and have our being in God. The violet disc on the symbol, in the same way as the holes in a spherical shaped lampshade spread one and the same light in many rays, the mother energy, the violet color, appears to divide up the one, eternal and infinite, into the many, time and space. The colored circle symbolizes the eternally created and eternally changing temporal in life. Here are consciousness and the material world. The three eternal principles, the creator, the creative ability and the created form, an indivisible principle, as is seen in the next symbol. With the eternal aspect combined with the temporal aspect, we can begin to see the divine plan of creation. This symbol is called the eternal world picture, the living being, number 2, the eternal Godhead and the eternal sons of God. The eternal plan of creation. All living beings have, just as God, an eternal I, which survives every created thing. As we are immortal, we can take advantage of all our experiences, life after life. All experiences show themselves, in the final reckoning, to be useful and beneficial for all and everyone. The divine plan of creation unfolds itself as completely loving, logical and methodical. To be able to create experience requires contrast. The greatest contrasts in life within consciousness are pleasure and pain, or good and evil. To be able to experience the one must also experience the other. Seen from the perspective of eternity, pain and suffering are an unpleasant good. We survive, as already mentioned, all mental contrasts and ultimately derive advantage from them. In the physical world, contrast is created through darkness and unpleasantness. In the spiritual world, we experience the contrast through light and universal love. This eternal experience happens via 6 principles of existence: the plant kingdom, red color on the symbol; the animal kingdom, the orange color; the true human kingdom, yellow; the kingdom of wisdom, green; the divine world, blue; and the kingdom of bliss, light indigo color. Here occurs life's eternal interaction between God, the white star and the radiating field, and the sons of God, the outermost circle. It is our satiation with the light and desire for contrast which leads us from the all-loving light zones to the physical world. The adaptation to life in the sphere of the killing principle begins in the plant kingdom. Here the new consciousness goes through its most primitive phase, having only the ability to faintly sense the difference between pleasant and unpleasant. Nature's effect on the plant being, over thousands of years, stimulates the creation of organs for day consciousness experience on the physical plane. Thus, the plant being becomes an animal, the orange color. Adaptation to the killing principle can clearly be noticed in the evolution from plant to animal organism, with its attack and defense organs. The animal must either overcome or flee from its enemy. Its organism constitutes food, and it must therefore protect itself with all means. The instinct for self-preservation gets stimulated. The terrestrial human being is still partly an animal and lives therefore still to a high degree under the animal conditions of life. Might is right. Even though the humane world religions for thousands of years have stimulated human beings away from the use of the killing principle, the humane ability is still of a far younger date in evolution. It requires time to develop from selfishness and the survival instinct to the opposite, the loving, forgiving disposition. But the process occurs automatically as we reap what we sow. The moral of killing leads to suffering for us ourselves, which creates a longing after the contrast, the humane. In time, there arises for the ideal of universal love and for an intellectual explanation. The purpose of the Third Testament's eternal world picture is to guide humanity through the last stages of the transition from animal to human. We are on the point of being born into a new kingdom. Our intellect, which was developed in the fight for existence, makes it possible now to understand more and more advanced conceptions of ourselves and the world. With the harmonizing of heart and reason, the infinite cosmic horizon of consciousness gradually opens up. We have then become finished human beings in God's image, and are dwellers in the true human kingdom, the yellow color, where universal love is practiced. From here, the journey continues through the following eternal zones of love, green, blue and light indigo color on the symbol, where the eternal spiral cycle culminates in the contrast of light and happiness. The eternal world plan applies to large as well as to small beings. The physical universe is built up with life within life, upwards and downwards into infinity. Everything fits together beautifully like the cogwheels in a clock. The universe's myriad of living beings in micro, meso, and macrocosmos have all the same simple, eternal, fundamental analysis. The outer differences just reflect variations over life's 6 principles of existence. Our macro-being, the Earth, is also on the way toward cosmic consciousness, the small star figure on the symbol. Its cosmic birth within the next 3,000 years forms a transition to the perfect human kingdom, the kingdom of God on the earth. Henceforth it is right and not might which settles all matters. It is not accidental that Martinus has chosen to place the following 2 symbols on the front and back covers of his work. The symbol on the back cover is called Through the Initiation of Darkness, Hell or Armageddon. The large orange arc and the sword from the left symbolize a dark action which is happening to the individual, the white triangle. Here the response is with the principle of revenge, the sword from the right, which we know as formulated in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. With cosmic sight it can be seen how we ourselves create our faith from life to life, the orange rectangles, interposed with resting periods in the spiritual worlds, the yellow rectangles. War, political and religious conflict, poverty, illness and distress are due to ignorance about eternal life and the law of karma. One believes that one can sow war and reap peace. Only after we have harvested our sufferings is born an understanding of life's law of love. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Meat eating is also an example that human beings know not what they do. All the sufferings we cause other living beings, large as well as small, return to ourselves. The volcano on the symbol symbolizes natural catastrophes and shows that we are not wholly protected in relation to our macro-being, the earth. We ourselves constitute a macro-being in relation to our organism. If we provide it with poor conditions, we are then born in outlying areas of wilderness, which are correspondingly dangerous. But even during the initiation of darkness, in the killing principle sphere, we are surrounded by love. On the symbol, the radiant halo. The receptive soul can always find a guiding light which shows the way out of the darkness. The symbol on the front cover is called the fully evolved human being in God's image after his likeness. This symbol illustrates the New Testament's moral principle of complete forgiveness, the goal of evolution. The 2 clasped hands symbolize that the loving person meets hostility, the left orange arc, with friendship, the right yellow arc, and thereby creates a light and joyful future for itself and its neighbor in this and future lives. The rectangle areas become more and more yellow-colored. Every experience of suffering makes us gradually more compassionate until we only have the heart to do the good like the Christ being in the symbol. The lowest part, with the black background, of the previous 2 symbols illustrate the cosmic life view with many terrestrial lives, the law of karma and evolution from animal to human. We see that the Third Testament supports the New Testament's moral principle. The purpose of the many terrestrial lives is to teach us to love your God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. We have then become human beings in God's image after his likeness. This symbol is called the eternity body. This is a symbol of our cosmic ray-formed eternity body, always in perfect balance, the cross on the symbol, unaffected by the death and mutilation of the temporarily created spiritual and physical bodies. All energy moves in law-bound cycles. Here is shown how every thought and action moves in small and large cycles back to ourselves, the triangle in the middle. This symbol is called the fate arcs of the living being. In this symbol we see how the fate waves connect one life together with the following. Currently we live at the same time in the past as well as the present and the future. Our actions today, the area in the middle under the triangle, the eye, determines the quality of our future lives, the green area, just as our consciousness and organism today are the consequence of previous thoughts and actions. But we only come to experience the unpleasantness which we still can bear to inflict on others. The principle, the forgiveness of sins, is a true reality. The physical organism is just a replaceable tool for the experience of life in the physical world. When this tool has been worn out by natural or unnatural causes, it is no longer fit for experiencing life and is replaced through the process we call death. Death is in reality a birth unto the spiritual plane, where we are recharged with light experiences and rest until we again incarnate. There is no death on the spiritual plane. This symbol is called the act of copulation, or the Spirit of God in the darkness. It was not easy for people of earlier times to understand the idea of reincarnation. In the Bible we can read, for example, that Nicodemus asked Jesus the question, "How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born?" It took thousands of years before humans were sufficiently mature intellectually to be able to accept such analyses. The large circles at the bottom of the symbol symbolize a man on the left and a woman on the right, at the culmination of the act of copulation. During this temporary experience of bliss, the blazing fire on the symbol, the partners are on the wavelength with the higher vibrations of the spiritual plane. This creates a contact, the indigo lines, with an individual on the spiritual plane, topmost circle, whose fate fits in with these parents. The condition of falling in love brightens the sphere of darkness and guarantees at the same time rebirth into it. This condition creates, however, conflict and rivalry for possession of the opposite sex. For an out-and-out male or female being, universal love is organically impossible. Real neighbourly love is not a question of will, but concerns the being's sympathetic talent. Christ is the example of the perfect, loving and forgiving state. Despite his extreme suffering on the cross, he could pray for his executioners. "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." The ability to love one's neighbour, regardless of gender, rests upon an organic foundation, on the correlation between the masculine and the feminine poles of the living being. There are cosmic causes behind sexuality, with its paths and detours forward to the state of being a finished human being. This symbol is called the principle of world redemption. Humankind is not left alone during the evolution from animal, the orange color, to human being, the yellow color. Just as children are lovingly cared for and brought up until they can look after themselves, so humans are guided from above through a spiritual parent principle, the the principle of world redemption. The Godhead, the white star, leads all living beings onwards and upwards with help of this spiritual parent principle, the rays. As we evolve from lower to higher consciousness, the step figure on the symbol, we have the ideals and precepts which ingenuously fit the step in evolution in question. This symbol is called the Spirit of God upon the face of the waters. God's almighty and all-loving consciousness permeates through the universe with its perfect manifestation and creation, the blazing cross on the symbol. The universe is living and thinking. Everything is pervaded with life and thought. These thoughts appear as cosmic world impulses, which provide the foundation for different cultural epochs. The double circle symbolizes the earth and its people. It is in contact with three cosmic thought or world impulses. Lowermost, we have primitive human beings, consciousness and culture. In the middle, the next impulse gives nourishment to people who are at the stage of being believers and stimulates the cultural manifestations of humanity during that period. The traditional understanding of the Old and the New Testament belong to this old world impulse. And topmost, materialistic and spiritual science, internationalism, modern art, architecture, technique and music, as well as unhappy marriages, mental illness, sexual abnormalities, and political upheavals are witness to a steadily accelerating process of spiritual evolution, at the start marked by irreligiousness. But this materialism is only an initial phenomenon. With neighbourly love's intellectual basis in the form of spiritual science, the conflict between belief and science will gradually disappear, and humanity will again, with its hearts as well as its reason, have contact with the spiritual side of life. The following three symbols show how the evolution of consciousness from animal to finished human being is reflected in the evolution from nationalism to internationalism. The symbol is called the unfinished human kingdom. In the animal kingdom, might is right. This talent has through practice become automatic in the animal kingdom and permeates the relations between peoples and nations at all levels. The world is divided into nations, the various red fields on the symbol, which collectively monopolize nature's wealth. The governments in the various countries, shown by the arrows, strive principally after economic and military might. They still practice to a high degree the killing principle in the form of revenge and punishment, the orange stars, in their external as well as internal judicial practice. We shall now see how the world is guided forward to the true humanism and peace, the rays and the white star at the top of the symbol. This symbol is called the karma of mankind. The actions of nations are also subject to the law of karma. The animal tendencies strengthen special spiritual radiation, the thick orange crust, which attracts a corresponding dark karma, shown by the flames. We reap what we sow. The fields to the right and the left symbolize the different quality of this karma. On the left, sudden death, which can happen as the result of our killing of animals and other individuals. On the right, slow suffering karma in the form of lifelong sufferings, disablement, illness, etc. The five-pointed star symbolizes the religious principle whereby God guides humans from these conditions to universal love via humane religions, the yellow field on the symbol, and eventually the pure spiritual science, the white field. We see already many humane results of this process: welfare, art, architecture, literature, science and technology. The circle's blue-colored field. This symbol is called the perfect human kingdom of the future. Through the teachings of Christianity, we have learnt about a new heaven and a new earth, that a peaceful and loving kingdom shall arise on the earth. The Third Testament confirms that this will happen, not miraculously from the one day to the next, but via gradual evolution. In the coming perfect kingdom of love on earth, the nations have become regions, each with their distinctive character. The green fields on the symbol. Previous religious ideas, yellow and orange, have been replaced by the knowledge of God and the course of evolution, the white color. This knowledge unites humanity in all their differences and is therefore the spiritual foundation for the kingdom of love on earth. The world government, the yellow sun, will initially be supervised by the highest representatives in their own special field of competence, being chosen by free election. Eventually, this government can be made up of cosmic conscious beings, the blue star on the symbol. Other factors include disarmament. With a one world state, all challenges become of an internal political nature. At the start, a world police force will guarantee internal law and order. An open supreme law and judicial system which recognizes the difference between criminality and abnormality and acknowledges the path of evolution and therefore only applies humane reformatory methods. The abolition of money and the private ownership of common natural resources. The principle of business, which in the past made it possible, perfectly lawfully, to obtain by deception something of greater value for something of lesser value, is replaced by the divine business principle. Equal value for equal value. Receipts for work done as means of payment will be introduced. A fund to pay for the periods of childhood, old age and sickness. Machines free humanity from the curse, in the sweat of thy faith shalt thou eat bread. We have time for the development of mind, art and human culture. Right prevails over might in all areas. The world state is guided by intellectualized feeling and humanized intelligence, neighbourly love. The words in the Bible about one shepherd and one flock, one people with one God and one true religion are thus fulfilled here on earth. In the next two symbols, we shall now see the difference between the materialistic and the cosmic eternal world picture. The first symbol is called the materialistic or incomplete world picture. The prevailing contemporary view about the universe is a cult of death. More and more people see only the materialistic aspect of reality. With this materialistic perspective, we can create brilliant, practical, technical aids, but it gives us only little, not to say any, knowledge about the living and the mental aspects of life. Many believe that life is identical with matter. People believe in death. With this physical perspective upon life, it seems, of course, naive to pray, and this function has therefore nearly completely stagnated. This symbol is called the eternal, cosmic, organic connection between God and the Son of God, number 2. We see that the question mark with respect to the existence of spiritual worlds is replaced by the symbols for our superconsciousness, that is to say, the eternal, immaterial I, the triangle, and its equally eternal ability to create. The spiritual worlds are taken into account and marked with the yellow, green, blue, and light indigo colors. They constitute God's primary consciousness. All the beings here have been through the culmination of darkness in the physical world, red and orange colors. This maintains God's consciousness in eternal, culminating omnipotence and love. The finished human being in God's image is God's highest tool for steering and leading the formation of fate in the underlying, as yet imperfect, physical worlds. This symbol is called the eternal cosmic organic connection between God and the Son of God, number 1. The symbol to the right expresses again the cosmic perspective on the universe, that is to say, God. We find us all in the center of this all-embracing organism's consciousness and are always unshakably, organically connected to God. So we can therefore always communicate with the spiritual world, also when we find ourselves in a physical organism. This dialogue with the spiritual world develops from the animal's cry out to the unknown, all the way forward to the conscious dialogue with God, which we know from Christ, who said, "You shall pray and never be tired." The uppermost drawings to the left symbolize the evolution from the worship of many gods, monotheism, the atheistic state, and forward to the finished human being's day-conscious contact with God. The equal green and yellow colors behind the triangle symbolize this human being's perfect balance between intelligence and feeling. The lowermost drawings on the left symbolize the spiritual guardian angels, the yellow triangles, God's listening organs, which pick up even the slightest sigh on the physical plane and arrange replies and help. To the degree that our abilities reach, we can all act as guardian angels for our fellow beings in between incarnations. Here are shown different aspects of the unbroken interaction with the spiritual plane: prayer, creative human beings gaining inspiration, the use of mediums, and the day-conscious perfect communication of the finished human being at one with God. The Third Testament explains that life is a dialogue between the eternal, all-loving and omnipresent Father and his likewise eternal Son and Daughter, in the inner as well as the outer. The unselfish thought climate makes humans one with God. With the words, "Not my will, but thy will be done," the praying person becomes one with God's will and therefore experiences the mental magic of prayer. God answers all prayers via outer as well as inner events, new understanding or streams of vitality into the consciousness. With this help to take the rough with the smooth, there gradually develops the state of universal love. The completely evolved human being is in harmony with the whole of life and can therefore say as Christ, "I and my Father are one."